Hello and welcome to my podcast. I'm Naomi and this is NJ Knits, where I talk about my knitting. So today I'm coming at you from Prague, the beautiful city of Prague, and I'm coming at you with some gigantic hair today. So please enjoy that. I am currently wearing, this is the let me look at it. I can't remember what it's called. But the pattern is by Jennifer Brow. I'll link it down below. And yeah, I'm trying out a little bit of a standing podcast because why not? I don't know. So I have already filmed a little segment of this at home with all of the finished objects, works in progress, like updates of things that I didn't bring to Prague. So I did that just before I left for Prague, and it's now been a couple of weeks. So some of the projects that I've been working on, there's one project you've not even seen before that's now totally finished. And there's been some progress on other things. So I'm gonna start you off with the content from London. So please enjoy going back in time and traveling to another city and another country. See you back in a bit.
It is very warm. I need to podcast and I don't have very much time because I'm leaving for Prague tomorrow. So I need to show you a couple of things that I have finished, which I'm not taking with me to Prague. The rest of my whips I'm taking with me, and I will show them to you later in Prague. You're going to come to Prague with me. But quickly, I want to show you the things that I'm leaving behind, which I have finished. So please stay tuned and enjoy. I'm going to try and do this in 15 minutes. Let's see if I can. So today, for your viewing pleasure, I've got three FOs and one whip. And then everything else is coming to Prague, so I can show it to you in my own time. The first finished object is, these are not blocked yet, my first pair of Thames socks. So Holly and I are walking the Thames path, which is about 200 miles, the whole of the Thames River, which is the river that goes through London, the river we live on, that our boat is floating on. So we went to the source and we've been like walking on weekends along the river. And I thought it would be fun to knit a pair of socks where I only work on them when we're on the Thames path. So these socks were entirely made walking along the Thames path. They're done on 1.75mm needles and 56 stitches because I just have a ridiculously loose gauge, and I find that even 2mm needles sometimes are quite loose. It's just a simple broken rib pattern. It's not broken rib, it's 3x1 rib. And then I did stripes. With the stripes, I did the thing where you knit for the first row. It's 3 rows of stripes, 3 rows of the yarn. And the yarn is from Barcelona. It's from All You Knitters Love, and the color is Eat Your Broccoli, which I love. It's like extreme speckling. I really love these socks. But they're not coming to Prague with me, so just showing them to you. And then the neon is Yarwool, which I got for Christmas. Yeah, so I started on a new pair. I'll actually have to show those to you because I won't bring them to Prague either because there's no Thames in Prague. So yeah, I'll show that to you in a minute. My next finished object, this has been like movie knitting and show knitting because it's just been stockinette in the round. This is my finished Augustine's number 23, the skirt, the only skirt. So yeah, I've finished this. This is with a strand of Ice yarn, which is like a Turkish brand. It's like alpaca and acrylic with 2 strands of mohair, which I got from eBay in Canada. The ice yarn I got on eBay in London, in the UK. So I have a cardigan made in the ice yarn, and I thought it would be fun to have a matching skirt. And I want to also make it a top to wear under the cardigan so I can have a 3-piece outfit. But yeah, this bit is done. It's a little bit shorter than maybe I would want it, but I've washed it and blocked it. It has gotten a bit longer, and I reckon it will probably go a bit longer even. So yeah, that is finished. And then the final finished object is this cushion, which I made sure to finish before I left because Holly hates this the cushion cover that was on this. So I wanted to have it finished. This is the Noro yarn. This was a whip before, so you've seen it before. But it was a load of crochet granny squares, and the old cushion is under it. So yeah, that's the white that you see peeking through. And then I added a zip to there. And yeah, I probably, retrospectively, I wouldn't have thought of this, but I should have put the zip here. Obviously, these are just one single granny square, so I couldn't have, but I should have done smaller granny squares and put the zip on this side so that this could be the top, because then you get more, as it is, like if you put the zip at the bottom, it sort of ends up squishing a little bit, and then you end up getting like a lot of black and not so much of the pretty colors. This is Noro Koyodon, I think, which is 100% wool. And then the black is a cone that I got off eBay. It was just a buy it now. I think I got it from Bubs, maybe. There's a few eBay sellers that I have favorited where when I want a cone, I can usually find what I want from them. So yeah, this was a perfect match. I was really happy. It's a perfect match for the Noro in terms of like it was a single strand, it was spun the same like amount of tightness, and it was this exactly the same like thickness. So that was great. And it's all done. Yay! Which side is your favorite? This side? Or this side? I added a panel of squares on one side because it wasn't wide enough. And I did another panel on this side, and that's when I ran out of yarn. But actually I didn't need the panel on the other side, so it's quite lopsided, but yeah. So I'm going to put this away because it's very woolly and it's scratchy right now. I'll show you the last thing that's not coming to Prague, and then my whips basket is all completely done. It's empty. This is my second pair of Thames socks with the same yarns, because I finished my Thames socks whilst on a trip, so I wanted to start another pair whilst I was on the trip. So I just used the same yarn. This is just a slightly different, it's like really blowing out. Anyway, it's neon, you can tell it's neon. It's just slightly different. I did the same cast on, I'm doing it all in stockinette this time, which is slightly different, and obviously it's a short like trainer sock. And I'm doing the heel, which I didn't do on the other one. I did a fish lips kiss heel, but I did a gusset, so I've increased 6 stitches. I've added 6 stitches before starting the heel, and then I will decrease 6 stitches after finishing. I might even decrease a little bit more. I've done the heel with the reinforcement nylon that comes with yarwool. Here it is. So yeah, it's the same, it's dyed the same. It's just like an extra super light fingering thread of nylon that you can add to the heel if you use these for heels, so that the heel is nice and thick. that's usually where I wear through my socks, is on the heel. So yeah, that just lives in this bag, and then when I go walking on the Thames, we're now over 100 miles through it. For any UKers, we've walked basically from the source of the Thames, which is in Gloucestershire, to Maidenhead was where we finished our last trip. So getting closer to London. It feels like we're really close, but actually we still have like almost 100 miles. So it's not as, it's like we're nearly halfway and it feels like we're almost done. It's funny. Just over halfway. So yeah, that's really all there is. Oh no, I have a whip and I have one acquisition actually, which won't come with me to Prague. The whip is, this is so cool. So I'm doing a pattern by Lerke Berger. I don't know how to say it. And I'm doing it with the Alone Together ATS technique. If you have her book, obviously I'm just started a row, which is not helpful, but if you have her book, let me just put these stitches over here. There's like a few methods she uses for like attaching scrap yarn, and ATS is one of them. Alone Together sweater, and that's the one where it's like bits, basically. It's a garter stitch baby cardigan, and I'm doing it with 2 strands of. It looks very even. Maybe I need to. It's very interesting. It's quite making something look chaotic is actually slightly more difficult than it seems. But anyway, I'm doing it with 2 strands of Sunday left over from my Friday, and this is a handbag organizer from Primark, and it is so cool for this exact project. It's got little handles. I've got my 2 skeins of yarn here because it's double thread. I hold them both together. I've got all of my scraps to add in randomly here. So what you do is you take a scrap, and I've already cut them to size so I can just reach in and like grab one. You take a scrap, you cut the yarn, you knot it in. Maybe I should do one. This is not where I was planning to do it, but maybe this is going to help with the. So I have all my tools in these little pockets. So in here I have my scissors. So you cut here, and my scissors go back in there. And you take your strand, and the knotting technique she uses is like this, and this kind of creates those little like kind of balls, basically little knots that you see, which is part of the aesthetic of the jumper. It's like kind of cute. So you tie this, and then you tie again and again the opposite direction, and then I still need my scissors. Then I take my scissors and I trim it so that and then I have this little bag on the other side in here where I put the little scraps. So it's just this perfect little kit, and then I've got a measuring device as well. So yeah, then I take this and I attach it back into the main yarn here. Same way. And then I use my scissors to trim the edge, and I take out my bag and put the little, because otherwise I'd be sitting, because I use this like for TV knitting, and I'd be sitting on the sofa and there'd just be all these things just sitting around. So yeah, so I have my little bag and it just sits here, and I can just stuff the ends in there. So now my yarn is all connected again. and I can just carry on knitting knitting happily. So yeah, that's this project. I'm going to leave it here because it's a whole big thing, and I don't think that it would well, I could take the whole thing, but it's just not a particularly travel friendly situation. But it's a great little like kit to have sitting. I have it sitting next to the sofa in my little like where I put my coffee on the little underneath the little stand, and it's just great because I can just chuck the whip back in there and then just slide this in, and I have my whole setup. So that's really fun. And the final thing is an acquisition. I'll show you this, even though I'm taking it to Prague. It's not in a very good state, but I'll sort of sneak peek it. This is my, I finished the main knitting on my Beads of Joy jumper, and I ran out of the black, which I was planning to use for the cuffs and things, the black that I used on the cushion, but I literally ran out of that yarn. And also I really liked the way this yarn feels, and it obviously it has mohair, it has silk, whereas the other yarn was just 100% wool, and I thought actually I'd prefer to have the same feel for the cuffs and things. So I found on Brian's Best Wool they had the yarn like half off, and they had some solid colors of the same type. This is Noro Silk Garden Solo, and I got 2 different colors because I couldn't decide, so I have 4 of each of these. So I don't think I'm going to bring the black with me. I think I'm going to do the green. And I asked on Instagram, and it's about a 30-70 split. Most people say do the grayish brownish black, and 30% say green and 70% say black. But I think the green is going to make all these colors pop more, and the black isn't going to. However, I'm thinking of doing the black for the collar, and then the green as the pop on the cuffs and the... Maybe I should bring the black with me. Maybe I should bring all of the yarn. So yeah. I was going to leave the black behind, but actually now I realise I was planning to use it for this bit at least. So I might bring all of this yarn. 400 grams of it. I have the weight, it's fine. So anyway, that's all the stuff I'm leaving behind that I'm not taking to Prague that you will want to be updated on because you care. So I'll see you in Prague. Hopefully it's a little bit cooler, but not too cold because I am actually enjoying the heat. I do love the heat. Anyway, you will see me in a few minutes. I will see you in a few days. Bye for now.
So I hope you enjoyed that. Now I'm going to start you off with some finished objects in Prague. So I'm going to start you with a finished object that was very random. So I got some yarn to finish off my Beads of Joy jumper, and actually maybe I'll just show you that. It's not finished yet, it's a work in progress, but it will help you sort of, I don't know, get the context for the other finished object that I have. So this pile of stuff with lots of ends and lots of stuff is my Beads of Joy. It looks like kind of a nightmare, but I've been sort of experimenting on it. I have blocked it, seamed it, and I don't think you've seen the whole thing since I finished it, like the body, basically. So this is done in pieces and seamed up. The pattern is for a short sleeve, and you actually don't do sleeves with this Beads of Joy. pattern. In the pattern, you just knit in the round. You pick up stitches around here, you knit in the round for a bit, and then you bind off. So it's a t-shirt. But when I was going through the patterns on Ravelry, the projects on Ravelry, I saw someone who'd done a long sleeve version, and she really, really helpfully took pictures of the sleeves before she seamed them. So they were flat, lying flat. And so she took pictures of them blocking, basically. And that was so helpful because I could basically look at it and be like, okay, so it's, you know, by then I'd made the body, so I knew how to make these beads. So I could just kind of look at it and be like, okay, so she did this many beads, and she kind of did like the side bit just has extra stitches, and then you just kind of keep doing the bead pattern on one side, but you kind of just bind off like not bind off, you decrease like a sleeve on the other side, and then the other edge of the sleeve was like that, the same way. So the way you do this pattern, it's really, really, really cool. And I don't want to like explain it too much because it's a paid for pattern. But the way you do this pattern is you obviously, like you can tell by the color changing, you just knit one piece. And then you pick up all of these stitches here and you knit another piece. So you're joining as you go, basically. You're joining these tiny little like mini scarves, basically, as you knit. And so, yeah, that's what I did for the sleeves. I just made essentially like a triangular situation. And then I blocked all the pieces, and then I seamed together the shoulders. I seamed first the sleeve to the side of the jumper, just because I wasn't entirely sure exactly how long the sleeve was gonna, you know, go in. And then I seamed the sleeve underneath here, and then I seamed the side. So that was the order I seamed everything in. I think mostly following the pattern, just here. The only difference is that the pattern doesn't have you seam the sleeves in. The pattern has you pick up stitches and knit. So yeah, I suppose if I really knew what I was doing, like maybe if I did this again, I could potentially pick up stitches here and knit. Yeah, I probably could do that. I could probably knit this into the thing rather than just knit the sleeves separately and seam them in. But I don't know really what advantage that would give, apart from like, my seaming's not amazing and I used a different colour yarn, so you wouldn't have the seaming, but I think the seaming's fine actually. Like I say, you can kind of see the black that I used to seam it in some of the cases, but the problem is it's colour changing yarn, so sometimes you notice it, sometimes you don't. But yeah, this is, I can't show you what it looks like on because it's on needles, but I really love this jumper. And I was trying to, and I bought basically two different types of solid Noro because I'd run out of the black I was planning to use when I made the cushion that you've already seen. So I ran out of the black. That was my plan, was to use the black. So I had to buy more Noro. Also, I really like how this feels when it's blocked, and I thought the black is going to feel totally different because it's a different fabric, different makeup. This is Noro Silk Garden, which is, let me grab a label. Here's one right here, just dangling on my leg. So this specific one is Silk Garden Solo. So it's 45% silk, 45% mohair, and 10% wool. It's like, I guess it's almost a worsted weight, DK-ish worsted weight. This is not, I believe, the yarn that James N. Watts uses in the pattern. He does use a Noro, but I think he uses a slightly different weight of Noro, if I'm not mistaken. This pattern is like reversible front and back, so there's no like short rows. It's the same on both sides. So you can kind of like choose which colours you want to be in the front on that particular day, which sort of a feeling you have. I think I prefer this side of the jumper to this side. Unfortunately, the Noro did sometimes have moments where it just tied two bits of yarn together, and sometimes they were similar enough that it was okay, like kind of here, but you can still tell like it's not this, it's just like bloop bloop, and here was really annoying. So it's really kind of frustrating when the Noro just, I feel like they should have sold those as off bits, you know, and cheaply in like a factory shop instead of putting it in the yarn and selling it, because, you know, you buy it specifically for the purpose of doing a project like this. It's going to just be beautiful and show the you know, the transitions, and to have it just kind of shop itself and tie a knot in a different bit of the color, it's just a little bit not great. I did have to do that in some places myself, so some of it is the Noro and some of it is actually just me, because I played massive yarn chicken here. So I was just trying to like piece together my last little bits that could like work together in some sort of way, and I tried to I think this is the worst one, to be honest. I tried to like do it in a way where like I would like pull off half of the, it's kind of 2-ply. It's very loosely spun, but it's kind of 2-ply. I would like pull apart one of the plies for like a very long distance and then put the other ply in, and it's sort of similar, it's slightly similar to how like the Noro itself does its own color changes, where it sort of just like marls for a bit. Like you can see here, it'll like, it's this purple color and then it marls for a bit and then it goes into this pink and then it marls for a bit and it goes into something else. Like here you can see the nice marl and then change, marl and change. So I tried to kind of make it similar. Anyway, I bought the Noro, and this is Noro Solo. So it's just one color, it doesn't color change, but it still has the sort of, it's the same makeup and it's the same look. So I think I asked you maybe last time which one I should use for the sleeves and the cuff. And I did ask on Instagram, and everyone basically agreed I should use this color. But I did try this color. And Holly still thinks the whole thing should be with this color. But I think I personally prefer this one, because I just think it makes the other colours of the jumper pop more. I did originally intend it to be black. But anyway, so I'm currently knitting the bottom and I'm really liking how it looks. I mean, this is what it would look like. It's hard to imagine. I don't know. I think I do prefer the black. I just think it's a nicer look. Anyway, I did do a green cuff just to see, like as an experiment. And now I'm kind of considering leaving one green cuff just for fun. I had knit the collar in just ribbing, and I didn't like how it turned out. It kind of sticks up. So I was considering redoing it and just kind of like doing some decreases around the neck to keep it lying flat, which is a trick I got from Lily's pattern, the Take Turns tank, where she tends to do that on ribbing around the armhole, just to keep it lying flat against the body instead of like coming out like that. However, I looked back at the pattern and I saw that in the pattern, it's just meant to be a short bit of stockinette that then kind of rolls. And I'm going to try that first because that's not that much work to just try, see if I like it. And if I don't, I can do the ribbing. So yeah, I think I'm nearly there with this. I'm definitely going to finish up the ball that I have. This much left. And then see if I want to connect another ball and do a bit more. But I think it might be probably call it good. Yeah, I'm really happy with this jumper and I'm excited for it to get warm and to get cool and to use it. So because I then realized I had this, I decided to make something. So I think I'm gonna sit now. That was a little fun foray into standing podcasting, but I think we might prefer to be a little bit closer to the camera so you can see my beautiful face. So the green, this kind of color, Noro, that I had, I've been looking at the Banco Dress or Bianco Dress by Le Poule. It's a really, really cool dress, and I decided I wanted to make it, so I ordered some hobby yarn. I don't have it yet, but I ordered some to make the exact one that she has. I'll put a picture of hers. I like the colour and I like the dress. Will I actually wear it? Let's find out, but I liked it. So I got the pattern, and then I thought, actually, I could make a vest as well. That would be really cool, and actually I think it would look really cool in this Noro. So ta-da! Now, I think I might have made it a little bit longer. It did. One trick I will say, this is basically like dropped stitches, as you can probably tell. I did it on 5mm needles. You're supposed to do 4mm, but I think this is slightly thicker than the yarn she uses. And I was basically kind of freestyling. I was just following the pattern, but also just like at different needles, different yarn, different gauge. Just kind of, I just wanted to have like a slightly grungy looking top in this green color. And I think it does say that it blocks out a lot. But I was dropping the stitches as I went because I didn't want to have the nightmare of like, you'll see here, this one's not even. So I would knit about 5 or 6 rows tops. And then I would drop the stitch and then just knit the bar, basically. So I'd drop the stitch, knit the bar, and then let the stitches like unravel on their own. Every sort of 6 rows, so that I could keep track of like where the drop stitch was. Because I was not going to trust just like me staying on track. It was like, no, we don't trust that like I'm going to be able to just count drop stitches and it'll be the same one that I picked up at the bottom of the thing with the yarn over. No, thank you. No, thank you. We need a little bit more security than that. So I was just dropping them as I went. So I could definitely tell where the drop stitch was. So I kind of thought that it was already like, I could kind of judge how big it was because the stitches were already dropped, but it did still block out a lot. So I can show you some B-roll of what it looks like, but I can also just put it on for you. I would say this yarn is very scratchy. If you're like a little bit warm, but otherwise it's nice. Back to the standing podcasting. So this armhole was about there, probably, before I blocked it. And now it's gone down to there. That's probably a bit more than I would have wanted, only as it's made, the top was about that before I blocked it, and now it's down here. So this is still fine, like this is still my hip level. And I think actually this is going to be nice with like, my main intention was to have like t-shirts under it, because I'm aware that like if you're wearing this light of a top, it has to be slightly warm, and then if it's warm, you're going to get it feeling scratchy from being warm and having scratchy things on. So it was more intended as like an over a white tee kind of a top. I think I'm happy with it. I wore it yesterday, it got warm, I took it off, just wore like the little thing I had on, and then by the end of the day it got cool and I put it on, and that was quite good. So yeah, I feel like also this would be quite cute as like a tee. Maybe you could pick up stitches and like, maybe not, I don't know, I'm not a designer, I don't know how to do these things, but yeah, let me know what you think, if you like it. I would love to hear. Yeah, I think it might be just like a tiny bit too long. I feel like that would be nice. So yeah, I can always, I guess I could always, that would be a whole adventure trying to graft this together. I guess it wouldn't be that weird. Thoughts on grafting this? Like cutting it, taking some out, and then just grafting it so it's a little bit higher. Thoughts? Your thoughts are greatly appreciated. Yeah, I don't... Otherwise, I think this length is probably not flattering on me, to be honest. I've got a pretty... I don't know, I don't think it's particularly flattering, so yeah. So either I figure out how to graft this, or I just give it away. It didn't take me long to make, it took me a few days. So yeah, it's pretty cool. I enjoyed making it. I'm not gonna like make another one now because I do want to make that dress, so I don't want to get like tired of this stitch in this thing. So yeah, this is my Bianco shirt. But yeah, I feel like I've made maybe like a size that's actually for a slightly bigger person than myself. Holly might, I almost think Holly might look quite cool in that. I think that would actually fit her. But she doesn't love knitted garments. So next whip that I have to show you, let me get my whips together. And just in case you were wondering, I bought 4 of these balls because I wasn't sure how much I would need. And so far on the cuffs and collar and bottom hem, if I decide I'm happy with the bottom hem, like when I finish that ball, I will have used 2 balls of Noro to make the cuffs and collar and hem. And then for the top, I used basically 3. I have 1 full ball left with nothing, like not used, but I did also make 1 cuff with it. So this is, I think, left over from the other cuff maybe, because I had originally made 2 cuffs. And then this is just like a tiny bit left over from the top. So I think I used like 3 50-gram skeins, so like nearly 3, 2.5 maybe. Yeah, with the cuff, definitely 2.5. So that's like 250 meters of this yarn. And I probably could have used less because it's a little bit big. So yeah, that's what I used on that. Next whip to show is I'll show you a slightly boring one. This is currently my out and about knitting. I don't have a sock on the go at the moment, but this is my out and about knitting. I haven't used it as like watching a show knitting, but it's intended to be that. However, I feel like maybe I might have to have my lapel dress as that, because this might end up being... I've done 2x2 and I've done 1x1 ribbing in the dark, but I feel like 3x3 is slightly more difficult. And the main thing is that this is lace weight yarn. It's so light, and it's very difficult to feel what's going on. My fingers feel like huge sausages. But anyways, I'm talking about something you don't know what I'm talking about. So this is my Ripple Tee by Jessie May. Made a lot of progress on it, actually. I kind of intended for it to be like, this will never grow because it's tiny, 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 tiny lace weight yarn and small needles. But it's growing. I'm only working on it if I'm like walking around. But yeah, it's grown quite a lot, actually. A lot of my projects are like they're quite simple, but they're just not particularly portable, because obviously the Beads of Joy is like huge. I don't want to be carrying that around. And then the other one that I kind of meant to be portable project, I'll show you why it's not very portable. So yeah, this just lives in my Marimekko bag, and this is the yarn. Like, it's 700 meters in 100 gram skein, so I'm gonna have more than enough. So yeah, I'll probably look at some of my favorite like tees and see how long they are, and just go on that for how long I'm going to do before I start on whatever I start on. I'll see also what the pattern says, but I want this to be like a nice tee that I can wear, not like a particularly cropped tee. I do like a cropped length, but I don't want it to be like just a summer tee. I want it to be like a tee I can just wear with jeans, and layer over, etc. Maybe sort of this length. But the yarn I'm using is Juniper Moon Farms Dappled Finley. I don't know why that stayed in my head, but I bought it in Canada a couple of years ago in a sale in Edmonton? That could be completely wrong, but in a local yarn shop, and it was on sale. Oh no, it wasn't. Everything else was on sale, and I just, on the high of the sale stuff I was buying, I just bought that one full price. I think it was like $31. But again, it is definitely a t-shirt's quantity of yarn in one thing. And from my last video where I was looking at like things that I wear, things that I don't wear, I'm finding that actually I love making things in lace weight. This is done in lace weight. And even though I'm not entirely sure if I really like this or if this is really practical, something that I'm going to keep and wear a lot, it is still, I love the feeling of this yarn on my body because it's lightweight, it's lace weight. And actually, I find that weirdly with my gauge, I can go, and this is insane because the way gauge is supposed to work is you knit a certain looseness depending on how thick the thing is that you're wrapping the yarn around. Depending on how thick your needles are, you make, the fabric that you make will be a certain, the stitches you make will be a certain size. So the idea of gauge, I don't know, I'll try and explain this. I remember the first time someone explained it to me, I was like, that doesn't make any sense. But the more you kind of like live it, then you start to get it. So now I kind of understand. The way it's supposed to work, this makes sense, is you've got a needle and it's like, say, really, really thick, and you make a stitch, and that stitch is a certain size, certain fatness, and it's a certain height. And no matter what yarn you put on it, supposedly your stitch with that fat needle is going to be a certain width and a certain height. Now, the type of yarn, the thickness of the yarn you're wrapping around this big fat needle is going to affect how see-through the fabric is. Because say you make that big stitch and it's like this big and the yarn is super thin, then it's going to look like mesh. But then if you use really chunky yarn, it's just going to look like a normal piece of knitting. And then if you change your needle and you put like a really tiny needle, then supposedly your stitch is going to be a certain size. And again, the same rule applies. If you use really thin yarn, then that certain size stitch is going to create a fabric that looks like slightly see-through. And if you use a thick yarn, that same size stitch is going to create a fabric that's, you know, very, very like full of fabric. That's the way it's supposed to work. For me, what happens is I use a big needle and I create a certain size stitch. I keep the yarn the same and I change down to a tiny needle because I'm like, oh, this stitch is way too big for this pattern. So I change down to a tiny needle and I create like a little bit smaller of a stitch, but hardly any much smaller. However, if I knit with a big needle, create a big stitch, it's too big, bad gauge, bleh, then I just go down to a smaller thickness of yarn, my stitch just goes bloop. I don't know why. I honestly do not know why. And it must be to do with ergonomics. It must be to do with my physical human body having an effect. Because if I was a machine, that needle, it would create the same size stitch no matter what you did, because it was that thickness of needle and it's all based on the thickness of needle. But it must be that for me, my human body does different things with different thicknesses of yarn. And my human body is not very good at making thicker yarn create a smaller gauge. So if I look at a pattern that's like DK, I can more than likely just use fingering to create that DK pattern and end up with like basically the correct gauge and basically good fabric. I don't know. Like I said, I did a DK weight pattern with lace weight yarn. That was my thin air tee, and it's fine. It's kind of the correct gauge. And I used, I think, maybe one needle size smaller than was asked for. Anyway, it's a confusing and odd thing, but I'm starting to find that actually I should just buy a lot more lace weight yarn because I like it and it works better for my gauge and I like wearing it. I like the lightness of it. Also much cheaper. You only need a couple of skeins because there's so much meterage. So, speaking of lightweight yarns, I am currently using my favourite blown yarn, which no longer exists, sadly, but which a gorgeous, gorgeous viewer sent me some of that she had. It's the Knitting for Olive Double Soft Merino, which they have sadly stopped making. And I'm making the Traveller's Cardigan by Outtro. And I think last time you saw it, it was a very small situation. And again, of course, I'm like very much in the middle of rows here. Oh, but I could just finish this. It's just 2 stitches. Let me just quickly do 2 stitches here. Okay. So this was going to be like my walking around, easy knitting, and essentially the problem with it is that the button bands are knit on different size needles. So you're knitting the button bands simultaneously, but on different size needles. So here it is. And it's just a bit of a faff. I've decided to use, it's meant to be, you're meant to use double pointed needles, but I've actually just gone for one big, long circular needle because it's easier to like not just have the needle slide out. So yeah, the construction is really quite interesting. I'm starting to be a good knitter and not just knit in my ends all the time, because I have noticed it. Like I have noticed the like slightly thicker bit where I've knitted the end in and I'm like, okay, let me just be reasonable and responsible about it. So I'm making the Traveller's Cardigan by Outtro. It's a very simple cardigan. It does have a dropped shoulder, I believe. And I'm really excited about it. I love this colour. I think this is deep petroleum blue. And yeah, this yarn was like so kindly gifted to me from a viewer who had used a little bit of it and then frogged whatever it was. So yeah, I'm really, really pleased with it. And I do have some bits of a lighter grey and a pink leftovers. And I'm really hoping I'd like to just do this all in this colour. But if I need to, I can do like cuffs and things in another colour maybe. But yeah, it's the softest yarn. It's just merino, but it's a chainette or a blown yarn. I think it's a chainette yarn. I don't think it's like a case with stuff blown into it. I think it's a really soft yarn that's chainette. So yeah, I'm having a really nice time with this. I'm on my second ball. I'm about here on my second ball. And it's just gorgeous feeling. So I haven't knit on it in a while actually. There's the double points that I gave up on. But yeah, it's ready to continue. I just got distracted with that that little top that I made. Because I think this is basically going to be like relaxing in the car on the way to work knitting, most likely. Because it's like sitting in the car on the way to work, I have like space, I can kind of have like a couple of needles out kind of faffing, and it's like a longer period of time. However, I would like to take my Welcome to the Jungle in the car, to be perfectly honest, because especially when I have like enough time to work on it, that would be good to get a few rows in on that. So yeah, I might just swap these back and forth. But I probably won't take the 3x3 tee because that's just a little bit too boring for the car. I need like a little bit more interest in the car because I am sort of like just listening to podcasts and doing that as my activity. So now the moment you've all been waiting for, more Welcome to the Jungle. So I am approaching the end of my first ball of our wetter in these colours for the zebras, and I'll show you my tracker and show you where I am on it. I am almost, I think one more row maybe, and I'll be halfway done with the zebra. Are you ready to see it? Let me just get my yarn splitter off. Ta-da! It probably looks the same to you as it did last time, but I have been putting some work into it. And I'm not gonna lie, I'm definitely gonna be stealing this jumper. So, let me show you, oh, this is the wrong notebook actually. Weirdly, I put the tracker for the Welcome to the Jungle in my like life notebook, not in my knitting notebook. Odd one. So I had that goal of doing everything in August and I stopped on the 8th of August. A little bit sad, a little bit disappointing, not gonna lie, but never mind. It was an attempt and it failed. But attempts are attempts, aren't they? They're not guaranteed successes. So here's where I am. This just tracks, each line tracks one row of the pattern. So I'm actually 2 rows away from being, one row away, 1.5 rows from being halfway done with the section of zebra. So yeah, I'm just going to keep plugging away at it. I was doing it, like it's nice to sit and do whilst watching TV on my own, because I can just set up my iPad, get it all ready, and just sit and watch TV and work on it. It's mindless in the sense that now that I've got the hang of physically doing it, it's not difficult to do. It's just that I have to constantly see what I'm doing. Every 10 stitches, I have to look down at the pattern and see what's the next 10 stitches. Okay, it's 4 of this colour and 5 of that colour. And then I do that. And then I look down and what's the next 10 stitches? It's this of that and that and that. So it's not, it's like kind of mindless, but the jumper is getting bigger now, so it's more stuff, and B, I have to have that, basically I have to have my iPad or my phone open and showing me the next 10 stitches all the time. I honestly don't know how I was doing it whilst walking now. Back in February I was doing it and walking. It's a lot of dedication, basically. That's potentially unnecessary. But what I might do is I might actually dedicate it as my car knitting situation during this shoot. And maybe if I do it in the car all the time, I'll get it done. Or like maybe morning car all the time. So yeah, that's that. I've got one more whip actually. And that's my turtle, which is coming along nicely. I only have a few more shell pieces to make, and I just bought the yarn for the legs and head and things. So here it is. I was just working on it this morning and watching some podcasts. I think this might be the belly. But yeah, it's going to be a little turtle. Look at how cute he is already. His little bum. And here's the latest flower. So I think that's going to go here and connect those. Really fun. Yeah, I'm having a really fun time with it. It's difficult to there are only so many combinations you can do with 3. I only have 3 colours. So it's like just this one in the middle, that one in the middle, that one in the middle, this one in here, that one in here, that one in here. So I think there are however many, I don't know how many, I don't know, maths is difficult, but I think there's 9, is there 9 combinations, 9 flower petals that would have different colours? Is that right? Who's good at maths? Who can tell me? 9 different petal flowers. So I think it's enough to make it look random, but still really, really coordinated. I decided that the 4th colour would just be this outer connecting colour, and I think that's nice. I like that consistency. So yeah, that's the turtle, nearly done, and looking forward to. It's just really nice, it's really satisfying, it's really beautiful. It's very aesthetically pleasing to work on that turtle. And it's nice that I love the patterns, they are so step by step. I recommend Heidi Bear's patterns to anyone who wants to make a really cute crocheted toy in pieces, because you make a piece, then you immediately connect it to the next piece, and so you just watch it grow. It's so satisfying to watch it grow, and it's so satisfying to just be just bash out one of these flowers, and it doesn't take that long, and you kind of just slowly add to it. Obviously for me, crochet is definitely like I'm sitting and doing the crafting, which is kind of what I felt like doing this morning. Not really. I was going to go out and walk around and do stuff, but I kind of just felt like I'm about to start. My shooting starts tomorrow, so I'm just like, maybe I'll just take it easier and relax a bit more. So yeah, that's what I've been doing this morning. And yeah, basically my plans are to carry on with these whips, finish them. I do have one ball of sock yarn that I brought with me. And Holly's coming at the weekend and she's going to bring, I got the hobby cotton silk to make the dress. So she's going to bring that with her and I'm going to make the dress. I think it's probably the wrong time of year to make the dress, to be honest. I'll make it and then it just won't be the right, like I just won't be able to wear it. But hey ho, never mind. So yeah, that's basically all I have in like coming up. I feel like these whips are going to last me a fair amount of time. So I don't really need to like plan anything else too intensely, but I have a lot of jumper plans with the yarn sitting at home waiting to be knit. So. Okay, now it's time for acquisitions. Very small section today. I went to the farmers market in Prague by the river. It's my favourite farmers market. I think it's the only one I've been to, but it's my favourite. I already know that, okay? If I went to any other ones, it wouldn't be as good as this one. Okay, I know it already. I don't need to go to the other ones. Yeah, it's my favourite, even though I've not experienced any other ones. And I go every week. I buy this like delicious apple juice, and anyway, it's great fun. I went and there's a woman who sells buttons, and I think they're handmade. She doesn't speak any English, so, I know some basic numbers in Czech, I know some basic greetings and questions, but anyway, I couldn't ask her, did she make these herself, because I don't have that skill level. But I got a couple of types of buttons because I thought they were really nice, and they were quite cheap as well. They were like 50 pence a button, basically, and they were handmade, so that's quite cheap. So here are the two buttons that I got. She started cutting these ones off the card, and I was like, no, just cut the card, please. I want to keep them on the card. So I actually have 6 of this one, but one of them she cut off. So yeah, 6 of this and 5 of that. So it's kind of hard to tell, but these are matte, shiny, and these ones are more matte. Yeah, so I liked them both. I thought they were really cute, and I was getting them in order to, thinking to put them on this cardigan. So one of these is already off, I'll show you. I kind of am already leaning towards one, but I think these could be really nice. So it's like a matte sort of black, basically. Maybe charcoal, like almost grey, but yeah, it's black. And then these are like I don't know what colour you would call that. It's a little bit too cool to be brick red. But yeah, if you took brick red and made it slightly cooler in tone, I guess that would be these. Well, I don't know now, because I was leaning towards the black ones, but now that I look at it on this jumper, and I love as well that I just bought these. I don't know if they're going to fit the buttonholes I'm making. I kind of quite like these ones, actually. What do you think? Your thoughts, please? Yeah, I think these actually are really quite nice. And then here's the black again. I don't know why I put it through the hole, because I don't know. So yeah, those are my 2 acquisitions. They were, yeah, like I said, 15 crown a button, which I think is pretty good. And they will be nice for 2 cardigans. In terms of my stash down, I have, of course, acquired lots of yarn. So it's starting to get a little bit tricky. What I was doing was basically getting rid of balls of yarn as I bought them. And essentially what's happening is, as I'm buying new yarn, I'm saying to myself, well, you don't get to keep scraps then to make scrappy things if you're going to buy new things. And I think as my main problem is the build-up of stuff that's kind of working for me. So I sort of, if I buy new yarn, I do kind of like leave it off to the side on my notes. And as I finish projects, I get rid of the scraps of the yarn, and that deletes the new yarn. Because essentially what it is like, it's a build-up of things that I need to do. And that's why for me, counting the balls, the literal balls of wool, works, because each ball of wool is something I need to like spend time and energy thinking about using and doing something with. Just like I did with that shirt that I made with the scraps of the Noro that I bought to make cuffs. And it's kind of like, okay, if you're more excited about making this new dress with this new yarn, then you're not going to do a scrappy project with all of these leftover bleh. So I've already gotten rid of a lot of my leftover Arvetta. Even though I wanted to do a scrappy project, I was just like, well, you're prioritizing this over that, so that's fine. And then I have been saving some scraps because I have like wanted to use some of them, but I think as I get more stuff, I'll just start getting rid of more and more scraps. I had a lot more Shetland scraps because I was like, oh, I can make I don't know what. And I just got rid of a lot of the colours that I didn't actually like that much because I was like, well, you're prioritizing this new stuff over making a Shetland whatever out of your Shetland scraps, so that's what you're doing. That's fine. And I'm finding that is good. It's helpful. So essentially, if I have like acquired yarn, I'm not too worried because I do have a lot of projects planned. And basically what will happen is I'll do the project, and when I finish the project, the extra yarn I'll throw away, not throw away, but I'll give away, and that will be like making up for the yarn that I bought, if that makes sense. So I think for a while I won't be able to keep leftovers and like invent things to do with it. So for example, like this is 2 balls of Noro that I'm going to give away. If anyone's interested in, I'll probably end up with 2 balls of Noro as well that I'll give away. And so that's 4. I have added 8 balls of Noro, so once I give those Noros away when I finish the projects, that'll be 4 down from there. So anyway, what I'm saying is there's kind of 2 tallies going on. There's the tally of yarn that I've actually finished up and used the whole ball of, and that's going down on my total, and then there's a side tally of like acquisitions and then yarn that I'm giving away. Because I think that's quite nice, because it's nice to see like, okay, so I've actually knit this much yarn this year, and then I've sort of added and given away this much yarn. So that's kind of what's happened, what has ended up happening. So last time I saw you, I had 200 balls of wool, which was a very big marker. I still haven't bought myself a treat for that. Oh, I did. I got a shaver, a jumper shaver. So yeah, the start of August, the first week of August, I basically finished up 5 balls of yarn, 1 Noro and 4 balls of skirt yarn. That got me down to 195. Then in the middle of August, second week of August, I finished up 4 balls of Noro on my Beads of Joy. So that got me down to 191. And then in the third week of August, I did 2 more balls on my skirt, and then 1 ball on of the Knitting for Olive on my cardigan. And then that was the third week of August, so that got me down to 188. And then I've been working on my turtles, so that's like tiny, tiny balls of yarn, so they go quite quickly. So in September, I have used 5 balls of that tiny cotton on my turtle, and then I've used another 3 balls of Noro on the cuffs and on that jumper. 2 on the jumper, finished up completely, and 1 on the cuffs, I guess. The cuffs and the so that must be the second one that's going in there. Yeah, it is. So I've used 1 and I'm still on the second one. So that was a total of 5 of the cotton and 3 of the Noro. So that's got me down to 180. So since the last podcast, I have used up 20 balls of wool. I've, of course, bought another 8 Noros. And then I have just ordered some cotton to finish up this. And the cotton for that dress from Hobby. So that'll have to go on the side as well. The additions. But I like separating the giveaway from the actually used up. So yeah, I might actually adjust my numbers, to be honest, because at the beginning I did give away 16 balls of wool. So I might adjust them. And that will mean that like my numbers in terms of having finished yarn will go up a lot. But it will be kind of satisfying as this is just the numbers of what I've actually used up. I kind of like that. I'm going to do that right now. I'm excited about that. I'll come back to you with the new numbers once I do that. Okay, so I'm back. Post lots of very small amounts of arithmetic. And here are the totals now. So what I've now done is, as I've realised as I've gone, that really I like keeping track of what I've used up and keeping track of what I've gained and given away kind of separately, because I like to see how much I've actually done, and I like to see the used up continuously going down, and I like to see the gained always balanced out to 0. So I feel like that's 2 separate things to keep track of, and that's what's naturally happened. Was like, this was my last page. This was my last page, so you can see here I've started keeping track of, and I would cross it out as soon as it went to 0 and put a line through as soon as it went to 0. So like this was actually what I'm using up, and this was like getting and giving away, trying to keep it down at 0, which I obviously haven't done at the last one. So what I've done is I've gone through my whole year so far, which is quite good. We're in September, like 2/3 the way through the year. I've gone down through the whole year, and I've kept 2 columns. This green stuff is what I've actually used up, and this is what I've gained and given away. And I started the year out giving away 16 balls of wool, so that gave me like a real head start. So basically I have a 16 ball of wool buffer on the getting yarn and giving yarn away, which is really nice. But however, it has meant that I have 16 less balls that I've used up on this side. So anyway, after doing all of the balancing out, sometimes I would give away yarn and it would count on this one. So I have lost some of the headway I've made. But interestingly, I've only lost 8 balls of headway. So that means that where I had just told you that I was down to 180 balls of wool in my stash, I actually am down to 188 balls of wool in my stash. And I've got a negative 12 balls of wool in my getting and giving away yarn. Now, I haven't counted the hobby order, which I think is 8 balls of wool or something. So we're going to be pretty close to 0 soon, where I will actually have to just give away wool. When I'm finished, if I want to buy something, I have to give something away. So yeah, that's my new stash total. So I have actually knitted, out of 300 balls of wool, I've actually knitted 112 balls of wool from my stash. And I've given away The total I've given away so far this year is 107 balls of wool. So I've knit 112 balls of wool, I've given away 107 balls of wool, and I have acquired 95 balls of wool. Let's see if that math checks out. If I do 107 minus 95, that gives me 12. Yay, I did the maths right. Okay, so I am officially at negative 12 for like acquisitions and, yeah, for acquisitions basically. Because I count my acquisitions as either getting yarn or giving it away. And then I am at, negative 112 for using up yarn. So that's cool. I hope you're doing really well, and I hope to see you again soon. If you enjoyed this, please like and subscribe and leave a comment down below. I'd love to hear from you, and I will see you again soon. See you later.